Hello, Planet Sewers. Welcome back to franchise mode. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you're returning, thank you very much. I appreciate that. If you do enjoy my content, please consider giving me a subscribe. So if you haven't noticed, we are going to do a cougar habitat today in our franchise zoo. We won't finish it in this episode, but we'll get a lot done for it. So we're going to do a keeper hut, a break room, support building, and then we're going to start the tropical cougar habitat, and we'll get through most of it. It's just the detailing that we'll finish off in the next episode. So what I did is I decided I wanted to do, of course, the new DLC, and originally I wanted to do, I think, beavers or prairie dogs. Those are some of my other favorites because I will be doing cougars in Houston Zoo. However, when I was looking through different animals and biomes as I came around this side of the zoo, we do have a big tropical feel from the sun bears that are behind them. So I decided to go with the mountain lion or the cougar, mainly because they exist in a lot of different biomes. So they are found in plains, grasslands, mountains, desert areas, and tropical areas. So that's what drove the decision to do that. So I wanted to go ahead and add in a pretty decent size keeper hut right here, because I will do kind of a North America little section right here. And that will take several weeks for us to get through that. So expect a lot of North America DLC coming out for the franchise and Houston Zoo for the next couple episodes. Houston Zoo will only get one. But anyway, enough about that. So what I'm doing here is using the grid path so that I could create kind of, like a little relaxing area for the staff. I'll decorate it a little bit later, and I didn't finish that. I really wasn't quite sure how I wanted to do the habitat, and so I was kind of thinking about that while I built this. And I wanted to tie this in a little differently than all the concrete that's with the sun bears and the Himalayan bear tunnel. So we do have a water feature with the cougars as well. I haven't seen them really get in and swim, but maybe while I'm finishing it off, I'll get to see that. I had to keep it paused to make sure that they don't escape. No escapes, since they are dangerous animals that will upset the guests in the zoo. So I just used the East Asia rock walls here to kind of blend this building into this rock barrier that goes behind the sun bears. And I decided to go with a clay roof and to tint that green so that the roof would hopefully kind of not take too much away as it peeks out from the sun bear viewpoint. And originally I was going to go straight up with the roof here. So going through my thinking process a little bit, and then I was like, I don't think that's really how I want that to go, because I did want to have kind of, the roof covered patio. So I decided I would go ahead and do this a little bit differently. I was trying to space this just right. So I decided, well, I need to go 2 up, and then I tried to do it with the straight pieces before the corners, and I was really struggling. So I edited that out and went ahead and got my corner pieces in, and we're going to go back to the straight pieces. I'm not sure why I deleted that. It was probably an accident. Sometimes I often misclick. Anyway, so just using Z, if you don't know those little shortcuts, to rotate the piece. Shift will lift it up and down. Grid pieces, you cannot use advanced move on when you're inside of the group. So if I were to put all this down and then exit out the group, I could control X or use X just depends. The game gets a little finicky sometimes if you're trying to duplicate with what types of things you have in the group. Sometimes you have to actually make a blueprint in order to duplicate a building. But once I get all this finished, I will put it on workshop for you guys. So I'm putting on my eaves here. I had decided, I wanted that to kind of come out, mostly because it rains a ton in this zoo. So I picked the tropical biome, the tropical biome for this zoo, and it just rains nonstop. And I did notice when I was editing, I did forget one of these roof eaves on the back side of the building, so I'll have to go back and fix that. Luckily I haven't made the blueprint yet, so no big deal. I'll fix it later. And then right here I'm thinking about what I wanted to do to kind of connect all this together. I did edit out quite a bit of me just panning around the building. That was my thought process with it, was just kind of looking at it. I would look at it from the left, looked at it from the front, look at it from the right, just to kind of decide how I felt this structure would be and what it should look like, because I didn't want it to have too much of an Asian feel, but I did want it to kind of, have the tropical feel, but also kind of, trying to get a North American, I guess, woods cottage feel. And I guess that's what I was going for. But I'm happy with how it came out in the end. I did really think a lot as I was building it. So every time I spun around to look, I just cut that out. So you do have some edits where the camera angles may not quite be the same, because I decided to do a little pan all the way around. I noticed right here that my path was not quite how I wanted that to be. So I went ahead and just built it, and originally I thought, well, I'll just cover that with something. But I got lucky when I went back in and took the path out. I made sure to have that 90-degree snap, which I'm pretty sure I had on the first time, but maybe I just didn't have my starting point quite right. But the second time I was able to come off of that align to grid section and get this to connect decently and not be too wonky. So there's a little bit of me just kind of looking around. I decided I didn't like the kind of drastic slope. I wanted the stair here, so I went ahead and deleted what was down there so that I could get this to the ground and connect these things in. So as I place things, I should have turned that off. The camera is kind of kicking me around. It's like, oh, you want to look over here? It's like, no, wrong way. And there are settings for that. If you scroll down on that little clipboard menu when you're in the path, you can change that for the camera. And right here I was trying to decide how high I wanted that wall to be. And since it's just going in the ground, I didn't change it to a 1 meter. I just left it at 2 meter. Then I decided over here I would do the same thing, but I did use the 1 meter. I didn't want it to be too tall. The other reason was I didn't like the 2 meter right here. I kind of wanted a little variation as it went down. So I did put a second 1 meter right here and split it off. So I split it out of that grid group so that I could use the advanced move, which is hitting X, and slide that over into the other wall to give it some definition. I really struggled to get those guys in. I had to get some crazy views, and then they still wouldn't go in the right place, but finally I got them in. So here, just using shift to get this piece up here to the roof. It wanted to be way out in Neverland. So just using the, I forget what that's called. I think it's like a roof, I'm not sure. I can't remember. Anyhow, going ahead and putting, I guess it's a roof trim. I'm not sure. But I just searched for clay and find the pieces that match that roof in the search box there. And I decided I'd go all the way around with it and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim, make it look finished, and kind of give the roof, you know, a little, I guess, trim a little more realistic, I suppose. And then I decided right here I did want one more of those walls, and so I do have the grid changed to be able to do that. You have some options with the grid. You can change it for height and also for left and right. You have grid size. You can go from 4, 3, 2, 1, and then for height you can actually go all the way down to 0. I try to avoid changing the height too often. Sometimes the game gets cranky with me and I have a hard time getting pieces where I want them to be when I change the grid up. So I do try to keep it at 4 and 4 until the very end, or as long as possible. It didn't give me any problems on this build though. So I picked the little East Asia, I'm not sure what those are, but they're beams. They're stone beams, and one's kind of thin, as you can see here, and then I chose to use the thicker one at the bottom to support and have kind of 2 different sizes instead of keeping just one. And originally I was like, oh, I'll just slide this over here, and then I realized I think I'm a little bit off, and I was. So I went ahead and lined it up right there with the edge of the wall where I could see that it was lined up, and went ahead and put those in. And then we're gonna grab this one and go ahead and bring that all the way to the other side so that they're in the same spot. I do have issues sometimes with symmetry. I really like things to be symmetrical, but you can see I didn't quite do that here everywhere. I left it alone, and I'm pretty happy with how it looks in the end. And then while I work on this little stonework, just kind of copying and going back and forth between the small one and the big one, a couple things I took out as well that I had to do with the franchise zoo this episode is I took out fixing the peafowl habitat from the live stream. I guess it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago. But anyway, I did work on the peafowl habitat a little bit. I just took that out. We'll tour it when we get done with the cougar habitat. But with the DLC drop, I really, who wants to see the peafowls? Maybe y'all do. Maybe I'm totally wrong. But I figured the cougar was more entertaining than peafowls, and y'all would want to see that more than me messing with the peafowl habitat, trying to figure out how I want it to be. I also took out zoo maintenance, keeping the social groups just in order, and then selling off a couple bears. We gave them sent them out into the wild. And then the lemur habitat, I went ahead and everybody's on contraceptives. There's so many in there, so I had to get rid of some of them, send them out into the wild, and there's just so many tiny babies. It took a minute to get that sorted out and cleaned up because there's just so many in there. And then I'm gonna change gears a little bit. I do like this new thing that they have. I don't think I had it on here, but I do like the auto rotation. It's pretty cool. I think I do turn it on at some point while I'm doing these rocks, and it's pretty cool. So you can just hit X, set the rock down, and then you can turn on that auto rotation feature, which is new to this DLC with the free upgrade. So even if you didn't get the DLC, this is part of the upgrade for quality of life improvements. It will just auto rotate it while it's on the advanced move tool. That's pretty cool. I like that. I'm adding in the stone, what are they called again? Beams. Good grief, brain. I'm struggling. Anyway, across the top, and then we're gonna run all of those alongside the roof there, underneath the eaves on all sides. What else did I do that I took out of the video today? Oh, I replaced the pangolins. They didn't make enough babies, and both of the adults died. I have one baby, so I saved him when he reached adulthood. I had put him in the trade center just for that event, so I went and found him a mate and put the pair into the pangolin habitat so that wouldn't be missing anything. But yeah, it was about 30 minutes of Zoom maintenance that had to go on. So I took a lot of that out so that we could get to this building and the Cougars here in a minute. So like I said, we're just going around with this, and I'm trying to get things lined up and all nice and pretty. And I do go back because I decide that that gap on the left just bothers me a little too much. So I'm going to add another pillow there here in a little bit. And for some reason, this didn't quite line up. These are 4-meter beams, so it should have, in theory. I'm not sure why I had just that little space. And here's where I realized I am missing that little eave piece right there on the back. The palm tree just framed it perfectly when I was editing, and I was like, oh no. With this beam here, I did move it around a little bit, and then I move it again as I kind of think about my stairs and how I want those to look. The curbs, I struggle. I was like, I'll just leave them showing, and then I changed my mind at one point to on the left side, so I don't fully cover the curb since this isn't really a guest area. I didn't worry about it too much. The other thing was too is with that curve there in this stone, there's really not a lot of small versions of this stone, and I didn't want to use that upright all the way around to cover it. I could have, and it probably would have looked just fine, and you would have seen them only if you went down underneath the building and took a good look around. But I decided not to do that. I just left the curves where you can kind of see them in some places. But originally I was just going to kind of leave it like this. I didn't like how it came to the bottom there. I felt like that just wasn't quite enough protection for the staff to keep them from falling off the stairs. So I went ahead and pulled this one out just a little bit to where it covered the curb at the end. And then I was like, no, I'm going to put it back. But I do end up covering up that curb. And I end up replacing the beam on the left over there. And then since I did that, it covered up that other one, and I didn't need it anymore. So I went ahead and deleted that second one. So here we are over here doing the same thing. I struggled to get this one to line up in a way that I could get it to lay down. And finally, it aligned straight up and down off that curve, so I was able to go into the rotation and drop it down, and hopefully I've got it pretty level. It looks like it's not, but it's close enough. So then I decided I didn't like that little hole right there, so I covered it up, which means symmetry strikes. I had to go do that on the bottom side. Go ahead and bring that up one more. And then I do bring one more to the other side. I'm looking around, kind of trying to decide what I want to do here. That's where I'm having that internal fight. Do I cover the curb or not? And what ultimately made me decide is I just really didn't like that angled look right here with the stone kind of coming out of the thicker one. So I went ahead and said, I'll cover the curb, and we're going to just bring this right over to it, and then we'll bring this one out to cover that. So I did do the next one up there, so I decided this one, of course, needs to come out as well, and that's where I decided to replace that one on the left, so they would all be kind of in the same spot, since they had a little more of a ledge right here than the other one over there. So I wanted them all to kind of look like, they're sticking out and supporting that second floor right there. And we're going to go ahead and grab these, if I can get that to let go. I don't know about you guys, but I need to go get into the Frontier tracker and see if anybody else is experiencing this since the update. But I am not able to use escape to get out of any of the menus. So I have to actually click exit. Same thing when I go into Tegic Cam. Oh, I haven't tried Tegic Cam yet, but what other menus? I guess when I go into the camera for the animals, whether it's rotate or cinematic. Those are all, I can't escape out. It does nothing. I have to actually click my way out. So when I lose all the menu bars, I've had to hit G to be able to get that panel back to X out of the animal camera. So I don't know, it might just be me, but that's something I'm experiencing that's a little wonky. But other than that, I'm not experiencing any issues really, so that's a good thing. I know on some DLCs I have had some issues, major ones, for a day or two, so if that's the only issue, I can live with that until they fix it. But let me know if you guys are experiencing that problem with the game. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. I decided that we had a lot of stone going on right here, so I went with this thick East Asia beam here. I accidentally dropped it. I hit the wrong thing there, but to break up all the stone and add a wood element into this building here. So we have the support going left and right, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring all three of these up to the top. They're spaced a little differently because it's thick, so I'll go over there and I'll fix that. And I also decided I'll push them just a little bit back so that they are behind and not in front. So I was trying to see where that was, and right there was my hope, and I got it. I was like, yes. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that other one and scoot it over, and that way everything looks like it should. Then we'll go ahead and come to the side and do the same thing so that everything has the same look, of course. I was struggling with my angle and getting this to rotate the way I wanted to, so I had to pull it out a little bit. I couldn't see it. Sometimes I kind of can get it right, other times I can't. That time I struggled, so I go ahead and get this into place, and I could have pulled it out, I guess, a little bit, but I didn't because it's kind of tucked into that wood piece, or that stone piece. Anyway, so we're gonna get these all over here, and then I'm gonna highlight them all and do the same thing that I did on the front side, so that I can push them back and you'll see all the wood on the inside, but you won't see it from the outside. That was how I decided I wanted that to be. And taking that look around and looking to see what's bothering me about this, and this is where I decided I felt like it needed that support, or that it's the symmetry that's kind of bothering me. I think it was just a big gaping space, and I felt I needed to put another support right here. The other side I didn't do that, of course, because the path is there, so I didn't add another one on that side. But this side, it just, I guess because of the curve, I don't know, it bothered me, so I went and grabbed a rock and went ahead and put in that other beam. So I'm going to copy, Control X will copy things and get the advanced move arrow right away for you. If you hit Control D, it will duplicate, but it's going to probably fly it off somewhere you don't want it to be. So I'm looking around, kind of seeing, did I get everything? I'm surprised I did not notice the missing Eve until I edited, because how many times have I seen it now? Like 3? We should start how many times I missed the missing Eve counter. But I'm gonna go ahead and add that beam here, and I decided to go ahead and give it a little nudge up. I liked the way it looked, not being totally in line, and I did struggle a little bit right here. I left that in. I was not wanting to go into its place where I could actually see what I was doing. So I've got the 1 meter slope wall, and I'm trying to get it right there. Finally got it, and I'm trying to get the other one in. I can't see it, so I let go of the other one and went ahead and duplicated that one I find sometimes that's easier because it will duplicate it a lot of times and keep it at the same level instead of, you know, shooting it off back to the ground or off some weird place like it did that time, the first time, where you couldn't see it. And then I decided to go ahead and add in some support on the inside of this little roof area. So I set one down, and then we're gonna go ahead and, you know, bring that up, and I'm gonna bring one more over to this side, so we've got that support going up to the ceiling there, so that the roof, I should say, has support. And I'm gonna go ahead, I decided I wanted one more beam here, but I didn't want to bring it all the way over to the other side. I didn't like how that was going together, so I decided I'll go find the smaller one. So we're going to use I think it was 1 meter of that East Asia thick beam. And I do see that one piece that's kind of off color. I'm not sure why it was doing that, but to fix it, I just picked it up and put it back down. That's that one that I separated from the group and slid over. And so here we are 30 minutes later after all my zoo maintenance, and it's dark. So I decided what better time than to add some lighting. So on this side, I kind of kept it, you know, I guess industrial looking with the Australia light there. And I went ahead and left it that way because I didn't want to put those on the front of the building. On the inside here, I'm just using the Planet Zoo hanging light. So I'm using the roof as kind of my guideline for where they're going to go. I'm not too worried if they're exactly spaced out under there, but I did not want that to hang out on the outside of my building. So using those little different elements to kind of just get those spaced about 4 meters from each other so we can have some light under here. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring another set right in here so that they have some light as they you know, hang out over here if they were actually going to do that. And I scooted that one over just a little bit because I didn't want it to be you know, with a stone pillar running right through the middle of it. And then these guys, I noticed I needed to, you know, either attach them somehow, or what I'm going to do, which is spin it so it can hit the roof. I could have scooted it over and put it on that beam, but I decided not to. I just gave it a little tilt until it just kind of barely touches the roof, and slide it up there, and did the same thing here. I'm getting it close to it so I can try to eyeball that angle that it needs to be at, and then just giving it that nudge to get it up there. I don't think too many people are going to look around that closely at my roof like I am at the moment, so I wasn't too concerned about where they were or how they looked. I just really wanted it to have some light in here, and I felt like it was missing lights on the front, so I decided to go with the East Asia hanging lantern, mostly because I kind of felt like it had a woodsy or cottage feel to it, and that was why I decided to choose it. And case in point, why I put all this roof here, it's raining again in our zoo, as always. Alrighty, now we're going to begin our cougar habitat. So I'm going to extend that main road pathway of our zoo here, and I was really looking for the one time I wanted to see my hidden barriers, and I didn't see the option there to turn it on for the path. So I just kind of guessed. I was like, I think it's about right here, and went ahead and, you know, built a little curved path. We're kind of gonna get a little close to that staff building, but the buildings are actually in the back of it, so we should be good. And it should have 100% scenery, so it should bring that radius down. So now they can, you know, have a North American experience, and they'll end up at the bears if they decided, you know, not to go through the bears the first time, or if they're coming out of the bears, then they can go through the North America experience. And I'm gonna blow up that gondola a little bit once this is done, and we're gonna bring that gondola through. So what I'm doing here is working on getting another fun water habitat, kind of like what I did over in the bear tunnel, but this is going to have a little different design element to it than the bear tunnel did. So I'm using a square, well actually it's a rectangle, so I added, it was a height of 6 meters and a width of 14, and I use X on purpose, not just so I can get it precise, but that way when I hit the plus to add that terrain in, I'll hit the minus and bring the width down by 2 meters. And as you can see, it makes a perfect little pool. So I'm going to add the water. I was about to do my paths and I was like, oh silly Mathletee, you need the path. So I did the tunnel and it didn't work on the first try, which I deleted that from the edit. But the second try, it took 2 tunnels. So I put a tunnel down and deleted the path and not Control Z, and then set another one down, and I was able to start tunneling underneath this water pool that I made. And I had this idea that it would be kind of fun if the guests could walk not only underneath this huge aquarium area, but also be able to see into other parts of the habitat from here. So I went ahead and used a line to grid. That little piece was bothering me. I don't know why I couldn't get rid of it. I think it was just the height. But anyway, I just went ahead and made a big plaza underneath here. The reason for that was to get rid of all the terrain on all 4 sides of this water feature here, so that no matter where the guests are inside of it, they'll be able to hopefully see the cougars, whether they're in the water or running around kind of on the sides. Now if they're at the top, they won't be able to see them. So my idea to solve that is one, the gondola ride. If they're riding over, they'll be able to see that. So I'm just kind of looking around right now. But my other idea is I think I'm gonna make another version, probably duplicate the staff building, just take the support buildings out and put maybe, you know, a bathroom or something over here. You know, they're gonna want their snacks and their treats, so I may add that right here in front of the other building, or maybe across the way from the habitat. I haven't decided yet, but that's my plan, so that I can put a lookout or maybe like a patio seating to eat, kind of like there's a patio on that other one, so that they can stand and have a lookout and be able to see the cougars from the top side. Who knows, maybe I'll on the other side of this path just bring the terrain completely up. We'll see. But so now I'm gonna get rid of all of this stuff under here, and that little piece was really driving me nuts. I finally did get rid of it. What I did is, after I got rid of all this path, is I just set a path with flattened terrain on, so that it would go ahead and get rid of that weird little piece. I didn't want it sticking out of my my path there. So you can see, well, maybe if I do it by itself, but I'm gonna get it. We're gonna get rid of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of all that, because I already kind of knew I was gonna drop this down. So the main purpose of this was just to get rid of all the terrain underneath, left and right, like I said earlier. So I'm gonna go ahead and see about trying to get rid of that one little piece. So it's like, what if I try here? And boom, I got it. So when I go back in here to do my real pathing, it's not going to be sticking out of our path. So here we go. We have our nice floating water. And I had put that 4-meter wall there kind of to give me an idea where to start, so that I could get underneath all of that. And then I decided I wanted to put in a little sphere of terrain right here, so I could try to get them up here. So I decided we'll start with a sphere, and then I'm gonna kind of flatten the foundation out and get as close as it will let me. It's not gonna let me get all the way close because there is water in that. I probably could try pulling from the side of it. I didn't think about that until right now, to see if it would actually let me pull the terrain out from that. I need to test that, see if it'll let me do that. But instead, what I ended up doing is just kind of building, they are mountain lions, and so I wanted them to have, some elevation change into their habitat. So I went ahead and kind of brought this up to a higher level, also so they kind of have a place to hide out if the people are just too much for them. This is their little private space back here. I'm also going to add in some stuff that'll be fun underneath, which I haven't quite finished yet, but it is in progress. So I decided to go ahead and move away from the concrete style of the bears. So when we get back to that side of the zoo, we'll go ahead and continue some of that. Because I did think about putting the prairie dogs over there, the beavers in a small space, but I think I'm gonna try to put them all in one little area, since this is technically an Africa zoo, so it would make sense for them to have North American animals in one section. There's lots of ways you can organize, by animals, all the big cats, the bears, kind of like I was doing. I have just bears. We're doing bears on that side of the zoo. I don't know if there's a smaller bear that I can stick in one of those spots, but we'll get back to it eventually. So with the path here, I am trying to get in here kind of at the same angle I had it for doing that grid pathing, because it had, a real good angle going in and really fit that space. So I'm going to back up and I'm going to turn on the curve slope so that I can kind of turn in here and get this path a little better direction. So I was kind of looking at it right there, and I didn't like how that was going. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of curve our way in here. And I didn't want to go too far that direction because I have plans for the cougars to have some space over there that's theirs. And, hopefully good views for the guests as the cougars come through there. And I did turn tunneling back on so that, I could not worry about the terrain here, because we're going to put in walls and floors and things to cover up all that fun stuff, and build some supports in here so that it'll look cool, I hope. Maybe it's not too realistic, but I think it's going to be fun. These are honestly my most favorite things to build, I think, because it's such a problem-solving thing. I just find them to be very entertaining to build. Sometimes they don't come out the way I want, and that's okay. So far, this one is coming together in a way that I really enjoy, and I'm not, over here like, oh man, it's just not working. It worked out the way I wanted it to. I struggled a little bit right here with kind of getting the path to come in and out the way I envisioned, but I think it is gonna come out just fine. So here we are, and boom, I had to turn off tunneling at one point so that we can connect back in. And I didn't want it obviously to connect into that staff path, because the guests would just turn around and it would get real clogged under here. I want to make sure that they can come in and go out at different spots so that they're not getting too clogged. And then right here, I'm going to start working on, hopefully, well, I succeed, but my hope was to, create a space right here that the cougars can actually walk through. And I was kind of getting that started, and then I decided I needed to come over here and go ahead and close some of this off so that the cougars don't just go booking it for the nice null barrier that we have going on over there, because they will, and it's franchise mode. So I did need to get that blocked off so I could start figuring out their traversable area. I decided on this rock I wanted to kind of get that straight side right there next to the path. Bear is displeased. I've already edited her out. There we go. A couple of times. But anyway, I wanted to make a nice little, walk under the rock archway right there as they go in to this habitat, and starting that work on trying to get some more traversable area for them. It's green right now, but it's going to change once I start blocking things off and finish that barrier. It's going to go down. So I do need to make sure that they can get around, and see, he's already making a run for it. I see him. So right here, I see they can get everywhere, except for this little area right there, which I need them to, because eventually they won't be able to use that path to get to the other side. So I'm gonna put in a tree, and what I did is, as you can see, used all the buttons, so it's filtered for all the things: North America, South America, all the biomes, and I searched for climbable. This is one of my favorite trees. You can see it's hearted. The big one, I felt, they may be able to get into the sun bear habitat, and we don't want that. So I put in the smaller one, and I'm gonna put in a climbing rope here. They don't need climbing. It was not a requirement, but they can climb. So I went ahead and put this in here. So attach that tree to it, and we're gonna see if that gives them the traversable area. And it looks like I may need to go back and fix that. I thought I had it connected, but it's not quite connected, but they can use it. So now we're kind of in some tight spaces. I'm using flattened terrain right here from under the path, just to kind of get a path going for them. Then I switched it to push. So I just have the 2 meter, and I'm just lightly pushing. I do have it on 100%, but it's just kind of a one-click push each time, and I'm moving along and giving it a little click to try to get that space kind of ironed out. Man, I cannot talk today. It's worse than usual. I do apologize. So hopefully they can fit underneath this path. And I'm going to use the flatten to surface, and trying to get that angle where it's a nice, not too steep slope before I start trying to create that little ramp for them. And I can see that they can almost make it, but not quite. So I'm going to have to do a little bit more to be able to get them to come through this area and into, where the guests are, so they can see them. Also, to create a little den, I'm going to put a den back here, so that they, I'm going to put that one-way glass in so they can be seen but not bothered, hopefully. So just, trying to smooth out. That didn't work. It kept wanting to connect right there. So I went ahead and used the push tool instead of smooth, and just smoothing a little more down this way. I tend to leave my tools on 100%. I might have better success if I didn't, but I don't always change it. So we're going to turn the heat map back on, and it looks like I have destroyed their ability to move around. Oh wait, no, just kidding. There it is. It just took it a while to map it out. So we have success, so they can get to that side. So we're going to go ahead and finish off blocking them into this area so that they cannot, merrily run about the zoo and scare our guests, because we want to keep the guests so we can make money. It is franchise zoo after all. So I'm gonna just duplicate that and set that over and we're gonna copy this, but I think I accidentally, yeah, I do copy it. I meant to just move it, but that's okay. I was like, well, I've already got it. I'll just move this over, and then I'll get rid of what I don't want. Initially, I was just gonna move that over. Then I had this idea right here as I was putting that down. I kind of liked, you know, again, how I got the idea for the rock doorway over that path, and that was where the guests were actually going to come in. Is I decided I think it would be fun, you know, if there was just a little bit of glass as you walked by here, because the idea is to go into this area and experience it and not just walk right by. So I decided to kind of go ahead over here and close this off. And then we're going to go to the other side and just put in, you know, a little glass or plexi, whatever you want to, you know, it is glass in the game, but just a fun, you know, just peek-throughs, just to get an idea of what you're missing if you decided not to walk through that area, and be able to see the cougars if they actually are over on this side. I did put at the end of the video some enrichments to also get them to hopefully move around. Actually, not at this video, it'll be the next video. Just kidding. Because what I'm going to end up doing is we're going to use some of these mossy rocks and dynamic mossy rocks to make a platform at the top of this to kind of make it look like a little oasis. And I put in some stairs for them to get into the water, and then I used those same stairs to you know, duplicate and kind of create another space for guests to be able to see them as they're moving up and down in the habitat. And then we're gonna add in that other viewing area for them if they happen to be, you know, at the top of the habitat versus down at the bottom, so that they can be seen, you know, from our little, I guess, shop area that we're gonna make. I hope they'll be able to fit all that into episode 12. We'll see. So just kind of getting these in here with a little bit of spacing and not too worried how they look. I wanted it to be, you know, kind of like just a natural peek through. I guess I'm not sure how natural I got it, but that was my idea. Is, you know, we're gonna slowly bring these kind of down, and then, you know, finish off that barrier. I didn't want a window too close to the exit entrance right here. I wanted them to, you know, to walk by and hopefully, you know, control our flow of traffic here. I guess I could have tried those new curbs. I didn't think about it. The new path where you can direct them, you know, this is an in and this is an out, to keep, you know, traffic from getting too bad. But we'll see if it's needed. I may not need that right here. So we're gonna go ahead and bring that over to the other side right there, and then start our way kind of in and go around the edge of the habitat. So get that other side finished so that when I turn on the game, they're not running madly for these escape routes, because they seem to kind of just know immediately. They don't just stumble upon them. They're kind of like my Clobear. You know, oh, can I get out here? Can I get out here? Oh, right here. Boom, I'm gone. Luckily, Chloe hasn't escaped very recently, but she does go check the fence on a daily basis. She looks for any weak spots that may have appeared since the day before, and she's gone through it a couple of times. She does find them. But anyway, enough about Chloe, who is still displeased, in case you were wondering. She is ready for me to go to bed. But anyway, so we're gonna just move this around and go ahead and finish off that barrier like I said. But right here was where I was thinking about putting that other overlook, like turning that building that is, you know, we're looking at right now, turning that face of it towards the habitat and putting another one in, kind of just like it, but turning it the other way. That was one of my ideas. The other idea is to build something similar to it directly across the gray path. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think if you have an opinion in the comments below about putting in that overlook into the habitat, where I should put it. But we're almost done with the rock work on the edges here. Rock work is the bane of my existence. I seem to be doing it all the time, but one of the good things about doing rocks and things as a barrier instead of an actual barrier is it's less for your mechanics to do. It might be a little more costly, I'm not sure. I haven't really run a cost analysis on it, but it for sure frees up your mechanics. They're not having to come and fix your barriers all the time, especially if you're doing a glass barrier all the way around or something. Those glass barriers really seem to deteriorate really quickly, and of course they're necessary on certain habitats. You gotta have them. But anyway, I do apologize for Chloe. I will never finish this video if I keep going back and taking her out. Usually it's Ruby I have to take out, but today it is Chloe. She is over here whining very much in true husky fashion. So we're gonna add in that glass here, and I was really searching around just because I needed a 5-meter glass to stick that here, and I still had that random rotation on, so it made the glass go all wonky. I was like, no, I don't want that. So get rid of that, and we're gonna grab a new one and duplicate it without that on, so I can keep my glass at the vertical position I have chosen, which I had a hard time getting, by the way. I had to kind of go square it off on my building and then bring it over here, because when I tried to align it to anything over here, it was spun in a way that I would have to manually get it to work. So I'm gonna just fill in those little pieces of where the glass is kind of sticking out all crazy, and make it look a little less crazy, and make it look like that glass is nice and sealed in there. So there we go. We've got that one, and I'm wondering, yeah, I'm gonna have to go look. I'm wondering if I just kind of covered up that glass with that one. Now that I see the kind of the angle it's at, I'll have to look at it from the inside when I get done with the video and see if I need to go and move it. Sometimes I do have a hard time rotating rocks, but here we are. We're gonna go ahead and end the video here, but we're gonna look at these wonderful cougars as they run around their habitat. You kind of get a peek. We're gonna do in the next video, and I'll finish off everything else, but I did want to look at them. They're so gorgeous. I love them. I think they did a really good job on the faces of these guys. They're intense, they're beautiful. I think they did such a wonderful job. I know I've said that already, but hopefully you get to get the DLC and build yourself an amazing cougar habitat, and we'll finish this next week. And I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you soon, I hope. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. I do appreciate the subscriptions, and everybody who has, thank you so much. May the RNG odds be ever in your favor.